Hello world, it's me, Dennis, and I'm here with Bob Atkinson. Hello, Bob.
Hi, Dennis. Great to be with you.
Here it is, the end of 2025, and the world is in such an interesting place in the evolution of humanity. And just at this time, you have come up with a book and continued in this concept. So this is your book that we have that we will put on the end of the show, of course, for people to do. But I want our director, Renee, to run the short film that you have that will set the table for our conversation.
Great.
Humanity is going through periods of transformation, leading us to unity, oneness, and wholeness. The confusion and turmoil of our collective childhood and adolescence is giving way to a consciousness of global integration. Humanity's age of maturity is dawning. The next step in humanity's evolution is clear. It is now time to recognize the oneness and wholeness of human relationships, where there is no other left to exclude from the circle of the human family or from the web of life. We are entering a time when the equality of women and men will be fully realized, when a balance between the extremes of wealth and poverty will be fully realized, when freedom from all forms of prejudice will be fully realized, when harmony between science and spirituality will be fully realized, and when the protection of nature as a divine trust will be fully realized. This way of unity, built on universal love, leads to the oneness of all life.
I'm in.
That does about say it all. And as the last frame indicated, that was an award-winning short video in the Illuminate Film Festival earlier this year in a category called Oneness of Humanity. So I was very pleased to be able to put that little 90-second video together for that first of its kind category of the oneness of humanity.
When I was growing up in metaphysics, I came up through the metaphysical wing of Christianity, through Christian Science, which then moved to religious science, which then moved, that was my root. And one of the words that we talked about was atonement and separating it to at-one-ment, which is the one.
Yeah, that's what the oneness of humanity as a concept is all about, is realizing that that's the nature of our creation. The way that everything was created was in that form of at-one-ment with everything else. So we're in the midst of a process of remembering where we came from. And I really like that, you brought that concept of at-one-ment in to this conversation very early, because that's what it really is all about.
And I love that, because whenever I've had some kind of spiritual aha moment, I've always felt like, yeah, I knew that. It's never been a new concept, but it's always been remembering that brings me back, which is everything that you're laying the foundation upon.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly how and why I was bringing in remembering, because it is a process. We're born trying to remember what we forgot, when we were souls. I mean, could be a long piece, but there are many legends in many different traditions about, and most of them are called something like the angel and the unborn soul, where an angel comes to the soul in the womb and gives it a sense of what its life is going to be like when it's born, and what its purpose in life is, and everything else it needs to know before it's even born. But when we're born, we forget that, and we spend the rest of our lives remembering what we once knew. So that's that process works both individually and collectively. It's the same legend that humanity is going through right now too, trying to remember its collective oneness.
I love stepping back and looking at the evolution of humanity and seeing that we're somewhere in, as a species, our adolescence, where we're stomping around and throwing fits and otherizing and victimizing, and doing the things that we see teens, or certainly I did as I was going through my teenage rebellion and the things that I'm going at. And there's a maturity that we can go through, and it gives me much more about, now while at 77 don't believe I'm going to see where we're going, but I am going to participate in this process of the healing and the uniting and the reconfiguring on the way that we are.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so important to think again, on the collective level of humanity as a family of all 8 billion of us, having a developmental trajectory, as you were alluding to, going through those stages, of course, beginning with infancy, childhood, adolescence, and we are still very much in the throes of a tumultuous adolescence right now. We can
Yes.
see the signs of that everywhere. But what we may lose sight of is that period and stage of our collective development is leading us to a collective maturity, which is why all of these things that are happening now are happening to bring about the transformation that's needed for us collectively to achieve our maturity as a human species. And that's the trajectory that we're on. And I can't think of any examples in nature of any life source and any life form where that trajectory doesn't hold true. I mean, once you get to childhood and into adolescence, you don't go backwards to childhood. You continue going forward towards the maturity. So if we collectively could keep that in mind, just that process of developmental evolution leading us toward maturity, we might be a little less concerned or anxious, and even rebellious about the
Yes.
things that are happening right now in this moment.
I use in my own philosophical work, Bob, is that I use 0 as absolute darkness and 1 as absolute light, so that we're in the continuum that is moving toward that light. And I find, I think about this, that whenever I enter a dark room, light wants to come in. The instant there's the tiniest crack, it's there. And it's very hard for us to keep darkness there. There is a tendency toward light. And so I feel that in this moral arc of the universe that bends towards justice, that bends towards healing, that there is that's what it's going toward the light.
Exactly. Again, because the best source for metaphors of that is in nature. And again, if we think of the the perpetual, eternal cycle of the seasons. We know that light, that we know that the darkness that we're in, the season of now, doesn't last forever. It's part of a cyclical process. And even if we take it to the extremes, one of my earliest and most amazing travel experiences was to the land of the midnight sun in Norway. And I happened to luck out by being there at the time of the midnight sun, right around June 21st, solstice. And the interesting thing was, there above the Arctic Circle at that time of the year, you can actually stand and watch the sun make a little circle in the sky at midnight. But the other thing is, the other part of that is true too. Right now, above the Arctic Circle, they're in total darkness, 24 hours for about a month long, even. But they live in the people above. I mean, it's really interesting to think about the people above the Arctic Circle, because they live in that cycle to its most extreme way. They know that a month of darkness in the winter is going to be followed by lightness, and even a month of total light in the summer. So that's all we have to remember too, is that in terms of lightness and darkness, as you were talking about, that's all part of the same cycle of nature, and we never stay in one place longer than we're meant to or need to.
It's like the spiral, like in spiral dynamics, as we have the Bob. What I love about what you're talking about is that it is so scientific. Your principles, quantum mechanics, all that works on these principles. This is not pie in the sky. This is absolute sound physics, science, chemistry. What we're doing is these are things that are moving in this direction that we can actually see and that we're going. And I love that you're grounded as a scientist.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and that's another good thing to think about a little bit further for a second. My training is in psychology, developmental psychology, so I'm not technically a scientist.
Oh, I will take, just allow me. It feels like the science of consciousness to me is a study that is so deeply important and so deeply valuable in how we perceive the entire world.
Right. That's exactly where I was going to go with this, because what you were describing in the way that you did is it is accurate, and it is scientific in the way you described. And the way I look at what I'm trying to do in the book and my other writings is to really merge science and consciousness, or science and spirituality, in a way that takes away their separation. Because one of the things we've always thought, or a lot of people have always thought, was that they're at odds with each other. Science is not what spirituality says, and vice versa. But it's really the opposite that's more true. They are, when you look at the world and creation, all of creation holistically, and that's what the book really does. It offers a unitive vision of creation and our life and purpose on this planet. That unitive vision sees that there's no separation or even difference between the truth of science and the truth of spirituality. So that's just how I would express it, that it's both at the same time.
I love it being an and gate, because we can have them, we must have them both, because if they are exclusionary, if we exclude them, we're losing half half of everything that we need to do. And I love that, because I was thinking about this as a concept, Bob, is that is that if God, this word that has so much baggage attached to it, but if God is love, then we subtract the word God and just keep the word love. All of us have experienced love. We've actually physically, there are some of us who haven't got, and I'm deeply sorry for them, but anyone who has experienced love has experienced the essence of what people are trying to talk about when they use that word. We can actually physically experience that. And so if I'm physically experiencing love, then I can now take that and use that as a power.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's another one of the things that I say in the book, try to make very clear, is that the creation itself, all of creation and every living being in it, was created out of and from love.
Yes.
And if we understand that, we may, that may help us see the creation and each other very differently than we do right now. So one of the things that I also say in the book is about how we can extend some of our most familiar phrases from the Bible, like in the beginning was the Word. Well, there's a lot more to it than that.
And isn't words are vibrations. And so if we're coming out of strings, or we're coming out of whatever it is from that primal source, it is a vibrational source, which is the word.
Right. And what I try to make really clear in the book is that we could also say that in the beginning there was wholeness. In the beginning there was unity. In the beginning there was peace. And that's because in the beginning, the creation was created through love. So we're part of a vast universe of multi-universes of a creation that by itself represents the most exact and meticulous expression of unity that there is.
So how are you, as you're taking the book out there on the road and having people, what kinds of responses are you seeing? Because this is a precious creation that you brought to term, and when you're getting a chance to go out there, tell me some of your experiences that you're hearing as you're going out and talking to people.
Well, I think everyone recognizes the need for unity in the world today, because we're seeing so much of the opposite right now all around us in every way. So people that I've spoken with and that have come to my few in-person talks, more of it has been in online forums, but everyone really understands that the need for a book like this, because it's what we really need now is a strategy to bring a divided humanity together, and a way to realize collective harmony that will lead to planetary flourishing. I haven't found anyone that I've come in contact with through this book that would not, see that, want that. So what the way of unity is for, and what it offers, is a global vision with a roadmap for humanity's next stage in its evolution toward fulfilling an age-old promise that starts locally with a method that's globally scalable. And that's the other piece that I'm finding a lot of people are resonating with, is that we have to start where we are in our own communities by helping to build strong, vibrant, inclusive communities that even start with a purpose to identify and apply unitive principles, or what I would call principles that bring about unity, and apply those in our community settings, neighborhoods, communities, wherever we are. And as we do that, we begin to recognize that when we decide collectively, in whatever setting it is, a neighborhood or a community, to live by a set of unitive principles that they really do bring about unity. And that's when it becomes clear too that that's a strategy for applying in our local settings what is globally scalable and will eventually lead to global or planetary flourishing of all.
Yes.
So
I
it
can't,
is,
I love that, because it has to be local to global. It has to come from us outward rather than it being imposed from the outside in.
right. And so the book, and what I'm finding that people do resonate with most, is that the book really does offer a unitive worldview that provides hope, optimism, and encouragement for a divided humanity. And for anyone who really delves into the book and first understands how the entire creation is an expression of wholeness, unity, and peace, and then further that there are a set of unitive principles that we can live by to sustain that wholeness and unity. And then the third part of that realization, and what we can do, is putting them into action, putting those unitive principles into action wherever we are. So it's really a process, and I think people are recognizing that, wanting to be part of a community that looks into how that can be accomplished. But and it's also, the book also makes clear that it's not a quick or easy solution. It's a long-term, very long-term, probably, process that
Yes.
can only happen step by step. And so, as you indicated earlier too, what we're talking about now and what the book provides, some of the tools and strategies for, is something that many of us in the older generation or even the middle-aged generation may not, and maybe many in the younger generations may not actually see. But it's like the one who plants the apple tree, not for this generation, but for the next generation.
That's right. Or builds a cathedral that they know that they will not be completed by the time that we're doing. But without those foundational stones, it does not get built. Without the nurturing of the seedling and the nurturing at the beginning, the final fruition with the fruit doesn't happen. And that's what we're doing. We're getting a chance to do it. And thank you for writing this book. Thank you for taking your time and your caring, for giving us a practical blueprint that we can go ahead and use and follow as we continue on. This book that you've written, The Way of Unity, is something that I want to be able to continue to work with, and that I encourage everyone to get a chance to be able to both get it. It's going to be with Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever you get your books. We'll go ahead and do that. And Bob, thank you for coming on today, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to spend some peaceful moments with a beautiful light that you are.
Thank you, Dennis. It's been great having this conversation with you.
Thank you, everyone, and to coming to Tardan today, and with Bob Atkinson and me, and we'll see everybody next time.